What's going on, bottom line viewers? It's Mitch here, live to answer your fantasy football questions for week number 4 of the 2020 NFL seasons. Or we could talk about betting as well, but I know that there's a lot of fantasy questions that need to be answered because we've had our first case in the NFL of postponements. Right? We haven't really had to deal with that yet this NFL season, but we're already dealing with it now. The Tennessee Titans, Pittsburgh Steelers, that's going to be postponed into the future, as well as the Patriots, the Chiefs. Now, I don't know when the Titans or Steelers are going to play. They haven't really given us a date for that yet. You're basically treating that game as if they're on a bye. So there's good and bad news when it comes to the Titans and the Steelers. The Titans and the Steelers game, now those two teams, it's actually kind of good that their bye is this week. Why? Because every other team, except for the Patriots and the Chiefs, will be playing on Sunday or Monday. So it's not like when their actual bye would be, there's going to be other teams that maybe you have players out of your lineup already. So it's actually kind of a good thing if you have Titans or Steelers this week. Now, if you have Patriots or Chiefs, it might not quite be as good because you got to deal with the fact that that might not be their bye. So you might be missing the Chiefs and the Patriots for 2 weeks this season, especially considering the Chiefs are like one of the most fantasy relevant teams. And the Patriots as well, you know, with Cam Newton surging this year and Julian Edelman being relevant and all their running backs having an impact. So the Chiefs and Patriots is way more negative than positive. But the way that I look at the Steelers and the Titans is kind of like, hey, maybe you get an early bye and it actually saves your roster down the road from having to deal with multiple buys in the same week. So there's two ways to look at it from that perspective, that regard. So I'm going to get into the questions, starting first from my Thursday Start 'em and Sit 'em video. Then I'm going to take a look at your live questions in the chat, and I'll get through each and every question. Remember, guys, leave those questions in the comments. Before I do get started here, make sure you do Gronk spike the like button and subscribe to the Bottom Line View if you haven't already for more fantasy football and NFL coverage. Also, comment your questions, comment your opinion on this week in the comment section. Whether you're here live with me right now or after the fact, let me know. All right, so let's start with the questions on the first video. Which, guys, that's the best way to get your question answered, at least at the beginning of the video, is to answer them or to comment right away once you see that Thursday video. So let's take a look. We just got a comment 1 second ago. Nice job. Nice job. Let's start off with Party Parth, who asked, choose 2, Renfro, John Brown, Burkhead, Beasley, Harry, Emmanuel Sanders. Now, I don't think you can play Burkhead at this point because, 1, I don't know if the game's taking place, and 2, James White is expected to be back, so that hurts it. Beasley, that's interesting. I think the matchup is there. He's been pretty solid, but I don't see a huge ceiling when it comes to Cole Beasley. So I think I lean John Brown over Cole Beasley. Definitely check the injury reports on that one, but I think you gotta lean Brown over Beasley. It is kind of close and it's kind of unpredictable, but in terms of ceiling, Brown certainly has a higher one. Renfro is actually a pretty quality start, and you also brought up Harry, so I think Harry and Burkhead are kind of crossed out for me. I'm not going to be starting either of these guys this week. Emmanuel Sanders, he hasn't really done anything even without Michael Thomas there. So that's kind of tough. But considering he's playing the Lions have given up a lot of yards. Ooh, I do feel like Traquan Smith and Kamara are more involved. But then you figure, okay, Jared Cook is also out. So to me, I think I'm going with one of the Bills receivers, probably John Brown. And then the other choice is between Renfrow and Sanders. And I think I'm leaning Sanders, but I'm not exactly pumped about it. Renfrow is probably the safest of all of them. So if you just want a solid floor, go with him. If you want a ceiling, I think John Brown provides the highest ceiling. So maybe go with the floor with Renfrow and the ceiling with Brown. I think that's the best way to go. Choose two: Slayton, Marvin Jones, Cooper Kupp, Chark, and Edelman. So again, I'm probably not starting Edelman just because of the unpredictability. I think there is a chance that they don't even play Monday or Tuesday. So I probably won't go with Edelman. You got a lot of good options though. I'd probably go Marvin Jones and Cooper Kupp. Chark though is interesting. I do like Marvin Jones a lot this week though because he is facing a defense without their number 1 and their number 2 cornerbacks. So I do like Marvin Jones. Cooper Kupp's playing the Giants, who are terrible on defense. I don't hate Chark, though. Chark would be my third choice. I think I would go Jones and Kupp, in my opinion. But I think you couldn't go wrong with 3 of those options. Revise asks McKinnon or David Montgomery. That's definitely tough. The Colts defense has actually been pretty good thus far this season. I don't know if that's because they played bad competition or if they're just good. So I'm not exactly sure. But I'm going with... I like Montgomery, to be honest with you. But I think McKinnon this week because he is probably going to be the lead back for the best run schemer in the game, Kyle Shanahan. So, and I expect the 49ers to win that game, which means McKinnon likely gets in the end zone. I like both options though. I don't think you can go wrong there, but I do lean towards McKinnon. Nicholas says Jimmy Graham or Anthony Miller. I'm going to say Jimmy Graham. I do know that the Colts are the best team versus tight ends thus far, but Anthony Miller has been a lot less involved on a snap basis. And Jimmy Graham is probably more likely to score a touchdown. And Jimmy Graham has been targeted quite a bit from Nick Foles. Nick Foles likes his tight ends. So I would go towards Jimmy Graham there. Party, I already answered that one. Ronald says standard league in the flex start. Brandon Cooks, Anthony Miller, Latavius Murray, Zach Moss, DeAndre Swift. Brandon Cooks. Miller I'm crossing out. Moss I'm crossing out. Murray, Swift, Cooks. Actually, Moss, maybe. See, Moss is questionable. Moss is beat up, so I don't exactly know how healthy he is. I think Murray will be more involved this week because those other players are injured. And because it's a standard league, there is a chance that Murray scores. I also like DeAndre Swift this week. I'm definitely starting Brandon Cooks. There's no question about that. The other one is really tough, though. I think you look at the possible injury of Moss. How serious is it? And depending on how many snaps, if there's any snap count on him or any sort of thing like that, or if he is restricted at all, I think that matters for this conversation. I want to say Moss if he plays, but Murray if he doesn't play. Let's go with that. So Moss if he suits up because he's been their lead red zone back. So in a standard league, I think he has an edge over the other guys. So I'd go Moss and definitely Cooks. Ronald asks, standard league wide receivers, Lamb, Fuller, or Jefferson. Ooh, those are good options, man. I'd probably go with Fuller. I know he's the most volatile of all of them, but I think he has a huge day. He scored a touchdown last week. He's the number 1 receiver, and he plays a terrible secondary, so I like the matchup. Steven says, I can't put any fate into Mixon. If he busts again, you're a fool. And if he don't, then it's still not worth playing him in the future. I think you got to start Mixon again this week. He has a good matchup. He's playing the Jags. You drafted him in the first or second round. You got to play him. I understand that he's been disappointing, but eventually he's going to break through. Ben says, should I start Devontae Parker over Tyreek Hill? I would say yes, because I don't know if Tyreek Hill is going to be playing this week. And Devontae Parker actually has a really good matchup. So given that Parker isn't like a bum, I'd go towards Devontae Parker. Amari Cooper or Robert Woods? I'd go with Amari Cooper there, especially in a standard league. Maybe Woods catches more passes, but Cooper's definitely has more upside, probably scores a touchdown versus the Browns. He's just been the more consistent option thus far, but Woods isn't a bad option either. Mitchell says, should I start Gesicki or Higbee at tight end? 10-team PPR league. I like both options this week. I had both, I believe, as starts. So there's that. I would go with Higbee just because I think versus the Giants, there's probably more of a chance he scores, but I like both options. Like, I'm not going to lie. I think Higbee's been better this season, or at least more consistent, but they've been about the same. So I'd lean Higbee, but I like both. Turbo says Deshaun Watson or Aaron Rodgers. Oof. I love both, actually. Man. It's hard to sit Rodgers right now, but Lazard's not there. So I love Watson this week, though. Man, really, you're winning either way. You're winning either way. I can't honestly say I'm leaning either direction here. I think both have fantastic matchups. Both are good players. You're going to get good stuff either way. I'm going to say that I think there's a more likely chance that Watson's game is close, which means I think he's passing the ball for longer. So I'm going to say Watson, because I think if you look at it from a game script perspective, I think the Vikings and the Texans is going to be a closer game. So that means Watson's going to have to throw more. And maybe there's a chance, there's a world where Rodgers is just handing the ball off in the fourth quarter. So I'd probably go with Watson, but it's really close. Triple D, Dawada. I don't know how to pronounce it. Brandon Cooks or N'Keal Harry? I'm going Cooks there. New Life says, need help. Pick 3 half PPR running backs. Hunt, Dobbins, David Johnson, Jacobs, Henderson, Gaskin. Thank you for your help and your videos. Thank you, New Life, for watching. Guys, if you're watching right now, make sure you do Gronk spike that like button so more people can get some fantasy tips and advice. Appreciate it. All right. I think Jacobs for sure. I really do like David Johnson this week, so there's 2. Kareem Hunt is questionable. He probably will suit up, but I think he will be limited, so you got to keep that in mind. Definitely not Dobbins. I'd go Jacobs, David Johnson, and Henderson. Mark says, who do I start? Joe Fitzmagic or Watson? I assume you're saying Joe Burrow. I would go with Watson there. I do like all of them this week, but I think Watson. Anish says, it would be a better idea to start Wilson instead of Fitzpatrick. Yeah, thank you, Fabiano, for that one. Mark says, have to start Mixon and Davis at running back due to injuries and a bye week. Wish me luck. I like both options this week, man, so don't worry about it. Benjamin says, start 2. DK. Okay, guys, seriously. Do we need to ask to start DK at this point? You're starting DK, all right? Will Fuller, if healthy, CD, Justin Jefferson, T. Higgins, Ayuk. So I would go, start 2. So I think the second option is definitely DK. The second option is between Fuller and Seedy to me. Again, I love Fuller this week, but I like Seedy a lot. So maybe I'm a little biased because I do have Will Fuller in a couple of my leagues. But when you look at his track record this season versus non-Baltimore teams, the guy's a top 20 receiver. So I think I'd go Fuller, to be honest. But I like Seedy a lot, and I even like guys like Jefferson or Ayuk. So I like your team right now. Goff or Watson starting? I would go with Watson. Durkant asks, Allen Robinson, Tyler Boyd, Odell Beckham, Will Fuller, CeeDee Lamb, PPR. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 options, and you need me to pick 3. That's tough. Oof. So I just said Will Fuller over CeeDee, so I'm going to remain consistent there. Although, again, I don't think you can go wrong with any of these options. I like Allen Robinson a lot more with Nick Foles, but I'm still skeptical. I think, and I like Boyd a lot, man. This is tough. Durkant, why do you gotta give me tough questions like this? I'm going Odell this week because I think he's going to go off versus the Cowboys because I think they're going to need to pass in a shootout. So I'm going Odell, I'm going Will Fuller, and it's between Allen Robinson and Tyler Boyd. I think I'm going to go Allen Robinson there because he is the clear number 1 option. So I think there's less of a chance that he puts up a stinker. Boyd had a really good game last week, so there's a chance he does that again. But I do like the Foles match with Allen Robinson now, and I don't really think there's anyone on the Giants that can cover him. So I'm going to go Robinson, Beckham, and Will Fuller. He also asks, Greg Olsen or Mo Alley Cox PPR? Ooh, because Jonnu is out. That sucks. I've also had Jonnu out in a couple of leagues. I was high on him. Probably a big reason you drafted him. Honestly, I would just go with Alley Cox just because of the upside. But like Greg Olsen he might outproduce Alley Cox, but like what's his upside? 4 catches and 30 yards. Maybe he gets in the end zone. Well, Alley Cox has at least shown that, hey, he could go for 100. He could go for a touchdown. So I'd go with Alley Cox just cause of the upside potential there. Like with Greg Olsen, if you miss out, if Greg Olsen does outproduce Alley Cox, let's say, it's going to be a case where he gets 5 points and Mo Alley Cox gets 2. But if Alley Cox outproduces Olsen, it's going to be like he gets 15 and Olsen gets 5. You know what I mean? So I think I would just go with the upside option there instead of the guy that I think is maybe going to catch a few passes. But I guess it depends what you need on your team. If you just want the really safe option, then go with Greg Olsen. But if you do want to just take a chance on the upside of Mo Alley Cox, then I'd just go there, to be honest. Neither of the options are great, so. Aiden says, Anthony Miller, Greg Ward, Latavius Murray, DeAndre Swift at flex if Carson doesn't play. I'm going to say Greg Ward. I think he has the best floor out of all of them if this is a PPR league. Ray says, if DJ Chark is out, would you pick up and start Sammy Watkins versus the Patriots? No. Hunter Renfrow versus the Bills, Anthony Miller or Brandon Ayuk? I think I'd go Ayuk there. Ray says, would you pick up and start Danny Schultz versus the Browns? Robert Tonyan versus the Falcons? I think I'd go Schultz just for the upside that it might be a shootout. Noob says, do you know if Mike T is going to be back this week? Apparently he will not be back. Havana says, why would Buffalo try to be the Patriots offense versus the Raiders when they have wide receivers? Because Brian Daboll, I know you're a Bills fan and you're all stuck up because you're on your high horse there, but Brian Daboll came from New England, so there you go. GSP says, should I start Lazard or Hooper? Well, Lazard's out for a while, so I think you know the answer. Mr. 3-0 Nicholas Gill asks Brett Rippin or Mitchell Trubisky. This is obviously a joke, or Nicholas is just the worst fantasy player in the history of fantasy. Lump says, hey Mitch, Goff, Stafford, or Wentz this week? I'm going Stafford. No Janoris Jenkins, no Marshawn Lattimore. Also, Golladay or Parker? I love both of them. I'm going to go Golladay, though. I think he has less injury risk, which is funny because Golladay was actually out weeks with an injury. Guys, if you're enjoyed so far, just finish the comments, and now we're going to get to the live portion of the Q&A. Make sure you do Gronk spike that like button, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the Bottom Line View, guys. Guys, the like button's huge because it allows other people to find this video in search as well as on the homepage. So make sure you do Gronk spike that like button and get your questions in right now because I'm about to get to the comment section. Also, for you guys out there, I will be live streaming the Bills-Raiders game. That had 43% of the vote. So since Patriots-Chiefs is not happening, I will be doing the Bills-Raiders. All right, so I'll start from the top as far as I can here. Let's see if I can get to the top of the charts. Also, I made the Patriots +7 one of my best bets. Obviously, that's not the case this week. You can find my best bets on Patreon. So if you guys aren't subscribed to Patreon, typically what I do on there, although I've been a little slacking on the Patreon as of late, and I will admit that, typically what I do is weekly we have the waiver wire targets for fantasy. So if you like the fantasy content on the channel, Patreon, $3 a month, you get my exclusive waiver wire targets. We also do the Bottom Line Extended Edition, where I talk about more games that I don't talk on the weekly review show. I also do best bets there. And you get to join a live stream chat every once in a while where we go live on the channel and just talk football or talk whatever. So if you want to be a patron, you want to support me, want to support the channel, check out the link in the description. Not sure if it's in this video, might have to add it, but you could find it in any video, or you could just search Patreon BLV and you should be able to find it. But yeah, if you want to support me, support the channel, check out Patreon. So let's try to find the live stream. I need to get these comments up. So we got all the way up at the top. I'm not sure if this is the top. So it doesn't look like it will let me scroll up to the top, unfortunately. So I might just have to take your questions right now as we see them right now. So guys, if you have any questions, just comment them right now so that I can read them off. So if you already asked a question and I haven't got to it yet, just ask it right now. So James says, who should I bench? Devontae Adams, Lockett, or Ridley? Congratulations, James, on winning your fantasy football league. Why do you gotta hurt my feelings like that? Honestly, my first reaction is Devontae Adams. Why? Because he's been hurt and he's left like the last 2 games. Like he didn't play last week and he left the game the week before that. So I think if you want to limit your downside, limit your floor, I honestly think it's Adams. But then again, Adams is the best player out of those guys. So the only reason I'd sit Adams is because I think there's a chance he could get hurt again. And since those options are so good, I would say you're in such a good spot because I really don't think it matters, to be honest. But I think the worst, I'll put it this way. The worst matchup is Ridley versus the Packers. the most risk is trusting Davante Adams to be healthy. Now I got to find where that question was. Jack P says Tyler or Gallup. So Tyler Boyd, I'm assuming. I would go with Boyd there. James says Lockett or CEH. Well, if CEH is not playing, which it doesn't look like he will be, I'd go with Lockett. Either way, though, they're good options, so you shouldn't be really worried. What else we got? Julio to New England. Damn right. Brian says, speaking of potential Patriots receivers, what is your opinion on the potential Julio Jones trade to the Patriots? Is it supposed to be announced end of week 4? That was a fake tweet, or at least not a fake tweet, but a tweet from a guy that's not very reliable. He's not even a blue check mark. He's not even verified. So I don't know if we can really take that seriously. Do I think it makes sense, though? Yeah, it kind of does make sense, to be honest with you. Like, Atlanta is almost in tank mode at this point, or at least they're kind of becoming irrelevant this season. And New England really does need a receiver. If they had a number one clear-cut receiver like a Julio, that would take them over the top to being, in the Chiefs, like maybe even better than the Chiefs. So I think they would maybe be the favorite in the entire league if they had Julio Jones. So if they were able to get a guy like that, it would totally turn the tables of the entire NFL. Fitzmagic or Tom Brady, I'd go with Fitzmagic. I think he has a better matchup this week. Mitch, what do I think of Trubisky getting traded to the Pats? Well, that would be incredible because Trubisky is the greatest quarterback ever to grace God's green football field. Gabriel says Marvin Jones versus a weak Saints secondary or Justin Jefferson versus a weak Texans secondary. I'd go with Marvin Jones. Carlos says OBJ, DJ Moore, Thielen, or Ayuk. I only need 2. It's tough not to start DJ Moore, but my first initial response would be OBJ and Thielen. But, yeah, I think it's OBJ and Thielen. Thielen hasn't been great, though. DJ Moore's been better than Thielen, but I do feel DJ Moore has a tougher matchup this week, especially if he draws a lot of Patrick Peterson. So I'd go OBJ and Thielen just because that was my initial response. But I like those 3 options above Ayuk. I think it's tough to start Ayuk over those 3 guys. Jacobs or CEH. If Clyde played, I'd go with him, but because I don't think he's going to, or like, Jacobs is just as good, if not better. So I'd go with Jacobs. Just from the safe, he's playing. Like, he's playing 100%. A says Scotty Miller, you messed me up by calling him Devin Montgomery. And Justin Jefferson. I'd go with Montgomery for sure. Wyatt says DK or Cooper Kupp. DK. Guys. DK is like he's like a top 3 receiver right now. Like, how can you... I understand Cooper Kupp's awesome, but Russell Wilson is cooking, guys. James says, who should I bench? Devontae Adams, Lockett, or Ridley? I think I answered that question, but that was like the hardest question we've had yet. Kate says, what's up, Mitch? What's up, Kate? You have any questions, Kate? Let me know. Brandon Cooks or Adrian Peterson? I'd go with Cooks there. Jack says, should I start DeAndre Hopkins now because I can't do it before 12 p.m. tomorrow? I would check the injuries. Typically, there's injuries very early in the morning, like an update whether he's going to play or not. You don't have like an app on your phone that you can use to start him? Like, if you really, really don't know, it does seem like Hopkins is going to play, though. So I would trust him playing. But if you have a great option on your bench and you really, really cannot somehow get to an app and start him in the morning, then I guess I'd just go with the option on the bench. But I do think that he's going to play. Carlos says, who should I start, Gaskin or Carson? As long as everything's okay with Carson, I would go with Carson. Let me just check real quick on him because I don't really own him in any league, so I don't necessarily know. So let me check. So he's a game time decision. Carroll said Carson looked good at practice on Thursday and Friday. He should be in fantasy lineups if active. So yes, if Carson plays, play Carson. Carson does not play Gaskin. So I do go with Carson as long as he is healthy. Brian asks, flex, Todd Gurley, David Johnson, Justin Jefferson. I'm going David Johnson there. I think he has a big week this week. Do I have a good receiver core? Julio Jones, Devontae Adams, Tyler Lockett, and Kenny G. I think you asked that just so I could say yes. So, obviously. Is McLaurin a good start this week if he plays? Also, bench Kelsey, right? I'd bench Kelsey, man, just because I really don't know what the NFL is going to do. There should be a report tomorrow what's going to happen, or possibly Monday, which is the concerning part. Like, if they wait till Monday to make a decision, then that's where you're kind of screwed. So, you know what I'd do? If Robert Tonyan is out there, depending on who your backup tight end is, if Tonyan is out there, or maybe even Hurst is out there, which is doubtful, but if Tonyan is out there, I'd pick him up. And then if you think there's a chance that the Patriots and Chiefs play on Tuesday, I would pick up Tonyan and then wait for the Monday decision. If it looks like the Patriots and the Chiefs, because they'll make a decision at least by Monday if they're going to play or not. So if it looks like they're going to play on Tuesday, you start Kelsey. If not, you start Tonyan on Monday. I think that's a good call, honestly. I think that's a way to go if you want with Kelsey. But it really depends. Like, if you have a great backup tight end that's really not too different from Kelsey, which is probably unlikely, then you can start that guy. But I think that's a good way to go if you do have a Kelsey. Or I guess that would be really the only guy, because I don't see any receivers that would be out there in your league unless, like, Gage is out there. But, like, I'm trying to think of if you had Tyreek Hill, if you had Mahomes. Like, I don't think you can wait all the way to Monday because it's Atlanta and Green Bay, and basically all those players outside of, like, Tonyan are owned in most leagues. So, is McLaurin a good start this week? I have him in my big league, and I will be starting him if he suits up. If he does not suit up, obviously I will not be, but he is questionable. Do I think he's a good start? He's going to produce. He's going to get his targets. He's going to get his catches, but it's not a great matchup. So if you have great receivers and you can, sit them, then go ahead. Where I have him, I'm in a league where I have to start, 3 receivers in a flex. So he's always going to be one of my top 4 options just because of his weekly floor. So it depends on the format of your league, what kind of league you're in. Ronald says, pick 3, Hollywood, Odell, Marvin Jones, T.Y. I'd go Odell, Jones, and Hollywood. PPR, Anderson or Odell? I like Anderson, but I really do believe in Odell this week. I think I'd go Odell. Just because I think Odell's always going to be good as long as he's playing a team that can also score. Like, he's played Baltimore, which he's never fared well against with the Browns because Baker sucks versus the Ravens. And then you have Cincinnati he played well. Last week he played Washington where they just ran the ball the whole game. So as long as he's playing a good team that can score points, I think Odell is basically a start every week. Jack says, should I start DeAndre Hopkins? I answered that. What else we got? Ridley or Golladay in half PPR? Oh my goodness. I would go with Golladay. I know that might be a little bit of a hot take, but I think I'd go with Golladay. Like, I don't know how they're going to cover him tomorrow. Like, I really don't. and he's a touchdown beast. So as well as Ridley is playing, like half PPR makes me lean towards Golladay. Full PPR, I'd go Ridley, but I think half PPR is Golladay. Hurst or Hawkinson, I'd go Hawkinson. Scotty Miller, Montgomery, Jefferson. I answered that question, Ace. I'd go with Montgomery. Yo, 2 leagues. Valdez over Manny Sanders and Valdez over Gallup, asked Chris. Valdez over Manny Sanders? Yes. Valdez over Gallup? Probably. Yeah, I think so. Opium, Cup, or Julian? I think you got to go with the safe option, which is Cup. And they're pretty close. Johnny says Ridley or Golladay. I think I answered that question. It might have been a different person, actually, but I answered that. So I'd go Golladay. Ben says at the flex spot, should I start Robert Woods, who is starting now, or Devontae Parker? Standard. I think the Dolphins are going to score a lot of points. But I also think the Rams are. I'd go with the guy you were already starting. I think they're nearly identical. So I'd go with Woods. Plus, Woods has been healthier, so go with Woods. Carlos says, who should I put on the flex? DJ Moore, Ayuk, or Gaskin? Man, I like Gaskin. I'd go Gaskin. Amari or Diggs? Probably Diggs. Just because Amari is playing Denzel Ward, which is a tougher matchup. Kamara is the best running back right now. I agree with Nicholas there. AJ says at running back 2, who should I start mixing? Jonathan Taylor or David Johnson? I think you got to go with Jonathan Taylor. Who should I start, Matt Prater or Jake Elliott? I'd go with Prater. Kicker question. Lamar Jackson or Tom Brady? Come on, Lamar. All right, killing it. Good luck, man. Yes, I would, Durkant. Yes, I would date them. Should I start Mitchell Trubisky or Jeff Driscoll? May you pray to the heavens for that. But I would go with neither. Should I trade Lockett for Miles Sanders straight up? Depends what you have on the rest of your team, bro. I really don't know. I would say Sanders is probably more valuable because he's the number 1 running back. And those are very hard to come by, but it depends who's on your roster. And Lockett is probably at the peak of his production right now. I mean, the guy's been out of this world good. Like, he's going to be good for the rest of the year, but he's been like top 5 fantasy receiver good right now. I don't know if he could keep that up. Bus, what's your question? James says Brady or Breeze? Ooh. I think I'm going to go... Man, I want to say Breeze, but I really don't know who his targets are. I think Breeze's matchup is easier, that's for sure, but I know you love Brady, James, so you can go with Brady if you want, but I think probably Breeze is my first answer. If I have to bench CEH, do I get Brian Hill or Jamal Williams? I'd go with Hill, I think. Lamar or Wilson? Man. Hard to sit Wilson right now. That's for sure. So, I think Lamar has a higher ceiling because of his rushing, but Wilson has been so consistent. So, do you want to go with the ceiling or do you want to go with the consistent? I think Lamar is the better play, but yeah, that's kind of the way I'm looking at it. Hooper or Ali Cox? Oof. I am starting Hooper in one of my leagues because I have Jonnu Smith, and Hooper should be in a shootout again. So they should be passing the ball, and Hooper should be involved. So I'd go with Hooper, I think. I don't know. Nah, you know what? Ali Cox has been good 2 weeks in a row. That's really tough. They're both kind of boom or bust options. So I'd go with the guy that's maybe been a little bit more consistent. I actually switched my pick there. I'd go Mo Ali Cox on that one. Steven says, do I start Mahomes, Joe Burrow, or Goff? So I don't think Mahomes is pretty risky, because we don't know when they're going to play. So definitely look out for a report, guys. Tomorrow, if there's no report tomorrow about this Patriots-Chiefs game, which there might be, there might not be, then just start one of the other options. I would go with Burrow over Goff. I think Goff has a good game, but I think Burrow, he's been really good for fantasy. He's been like a top 12-ish kind of option. Gostkowski or Tucker? You can't play Gostkowski this week. You got to play Tucker. Traquan, Ayuk, or Gage? I think you go with Traquan there. Should I put Christian McCaffrey on the trade block? No. Unless you can get, Kamara. Choose one, Chark, Lamb, or Slayton. Ooh. Bus, that's interesting, man. Then Debo, Kirk, or Valdez Scantling. I would go with Valdez Scantling out of those. And I would go Chark over Hilton. The true question is, do you go Chark or Lamb? I think I'm going Lamb based on their play. So I'm going to go Lamb, Scantling, and Chark. But Chark and Lamb is really close. Over, under on the Bears wins 8.5. I'm going to go under. I think they win 7 or 8. Gary says Rodgers, Mahomes, or Dak? Rodgers. Jack says Joe Mixon or Jonathan Taylor? Jonathan Taylor for sure. I'm not giving up on Mixon yet, but Taylor's certainly been better. AJ says, who to start at wide receiver 2? Gage, Green, or Parker? I'd go with Parker. Should I start Sony Michel or Joe Mixon? Well, considering Mixon might not even play this week and that he's nowhere as good as Mixon, I'd go with Mixon. All right. Is that all the questions, guys? That is all the questions. There's quite a few of them this week. Thanks for asking your questions. Gronk, spike that like button if I answered your question. And Gronk, spike that like button if you enjoyed. Also, subscribe to The Bottom Line View if you haven't already. I'll stick around for a couple more minutes here to answer any final questions if anyone has yet to ask any questions. Nick thinks the Bears are going 11-5, so there's definitely that. I'm wearing Bears orange, bro. All other Patriots tests return negative tonight, source tells ESPN. That's big news. That probably means they're going to play on Tuesday, which is kind of unfortunate for the Patriots on the flip side, because I'd rather play the Chiefs when they have Cam Newton. GSP says the hopes and dreams of poor little Chicago will be destroyed by Green Bay. Detroit's coming back. Detroit's going to win tomorrow, guys. I think so. Tyler Boyd, Robert Woods, or Scotty Miller? Not Scotty. It's between Woods and Boyd. I'm going to go Boyd. But that's hard. Very hard. I like both options. We need to watch a Rams game. Yeah, we do eventually. Chris Carson or DK? PPR League, DK. Standard League, Carson. Durkant says he's cute, which I think is factually incorrect. Nico says, can I start Chris Carson if he plays? Yes. Eagles or 49ers? Niners. Afix says, Boyd or Thielen? Thielen's been inconsistent, man. I think Boyd. Honestly. I like Thielen, though, this week. I think Thielen has a good game this week. But Boyd is just safer at this point. The Vikings just don't want to pass the ball. I think I lost in the BLV league. I think I lost to one of somebody in there. Somebody. I've also been missing a lot of guys. Like Adams has been out, who's like my number one pick. All right, guys. I think that is it. Answer a couple more questions. Nico says, Matthew Stafford or Fitzpatrick? I'd go Stafford. Unknown says, is Devontae Adams going to play? I think he will play, yes. Should I put Tyreek Hill in my lineup? Standard. Always appreciate your full feedback. I would check the reports tomorrow. They should have some sort of answer tomorrow. So wait till tomorrow to make any decisive decision, any big decision. But I would go with... it's tough to trust it because they definitely could move it to another week or they could just have it on Tuesday. If it's on Tuesday, it should just be this week. It should carry over. So I think you should start Hill but I think it all hinges on tomorrow. And the report we just got about the Patriots all being negative is positive towards them playing, I would believe. But I don't know. Really don't. I never had to deal with this before. I'm kind of with you guys. I'm just giving you my best advice that I possibly could. Now, the best advice would be conservative, but you also don't want to miss out on one of your best players. So I totally get it. And it also depends on your bench spots, right? If you have a really good bench and you can just sit Hill without a worry, it's not even a great matchup anyways, then yeah, go ahead. But if it's like Hill and then a massive drop-off, then just start Hill and deal with the consequences. That's kind of my biggest thing I could give you for advice. Yeah, I'm sad about Cam too. Ken says Mitch hates guys who are statistically awesome but not as flashy. All right, thanks. Ultra says go follow the Bottom Line View on Instagram. Yes, sir. Go follow it. You see it? Follow us on Instagram, guys. Please. Thank you. You can find exclusive content on there on Instagram. Check it out, guys. I will be posting the starts and sits. I haven't posted it yet on Instagram, but I'll definitely post that like right now, right after I get off. So that is it, guys. Your Q&A for week number 4. We're already in week number 4. We're already almost a quarter through of this NFL season. It's incredible. If you enjoyed, again, Gronk spike that like button and subscribe to the channel. It's Mitch. Thanks for watching. Peace.